This is the unknown war, the Eastern Front in 1915, where the Russian army sits in ponderous disarray. It is an awkward colossus, bigger than any army in history, but its punch is all manpower and horsepower. It has no adequate railroads or highways to move its millions of men. 2/3 of its peasant soldiers cannot read or write. Deeply loyal to their Orthodox Church, they are brave and stubborn in attack, quick to panic in defeat. Deficient in artillery, in shells, even in cartridges, they fight mostly with bayonets. Sometimes they do not even have rifles, but they attack anyway, tearing with bleeding hands at barbed wire. Responding to Allied appeals, the Russians divert German strength from the Western Front, but soon they are driven back in defeat. An estimated 9 million Russians will fall or surrender during the first 3 years of the war. The disillusionment and despair spell doom to the Tsarist regime. There will be only one winner, a revolution with a blood-red flag, a revolution that will shake the world for decades to come. Commander-in-Chief of the Tsar's armies is a stern professional soldier, a giant of a man, 6'6", the Tsar's uncle, Grand Duke Nicholas, ablest member of the Romanov family. Forced to strike before his armies are fully mobilized, forced by France's desperate call for help, he has suffered terrible defeats at Tannenberg, the Masurian Lakes, and Warsaw. Behind him as Minister of War is a corrupt politician in uniform named Vladimir Sokolnikov, who amasses a fortune by selling munitions contracts, and will finally be imprisoned, charged with being a German agent. Russia's most conspicuous failure is the man who should be its strength, Tsar Nicholas II, a moody, henpecked husband at home, a vacillating autocrat to his subjects. Late in 1915, the Tsar brushes his uncle aside and takes command of the Russian armies into his own incompetent hands. The Eastern Front in 1916 is a map of humiliation for Russia. Most of Poland is lost. Early gains in Austria are all but wiped out. But once again, the Allies are calling for help. Again, Russia will go on the offensive to relieve pressure on Verdun and Italy. In charge at the southern end of the front is Russia's best general, Alexei Brusilov, a fiery, old-line cavalry officer. He sends his horsemen out to tap the enemy lines in the Austrian province of Galicia. To find out, he says, what is solid and what is lath and plaster. He has been hoarding precious shells for months. Now he will use them up in a single day of furious bombardment, then push his army forward. By Brusilov's Cossacks, the lath and plaster wall collapses, and the Russians pour through 2 broad gaps. The attack continues fiercely all summer, practically eliminates Austria as a military power, and encourages nearby Romania to join the Allies with the hope of picking up some cheap spoils. More than 400,000 prisoners are taken, many of them pro-Russian Slavs who readily desert the Austrian army. German units are thrown in to stiffen the Austrian defense under 2 distinguished field marshals, Mackensen and Falkenhayn. They rout the Romanians, force Brusilov to extend his lines to cover the gap. over, Brusilov's offensive bogs down for lack of reinforcements and supplies. At the price of almost 1 million casualties, it has given Imperial Russia its final moment of military glory. A 60-mile advance into the vast landscape of Eastern Europe. On the flanks of Brusilov's salient, other Russian armies are disintegrating or pulling away in retreat, dismantling their communications lines as they go. And everywhere among Russian soldiers, there spreads a sullen conviction that they have been misled and betrayed. A short while ago, they feared their officers. Now, their officers fear them. Even Brusilov is ready for revolt. He accuses the royal family of ruining Russia. The army is turning its back on the war. The path of Russian retreat is cluttered with refugees. In flight from hunger, exhaustion, fear, they will find the same things in the towns and cities far behind the front. The refugees put an additional strain on Russia's economy. Primitive, already burdened, hardly up to the furious demands of a modern war. Russia's farms, stripped of their skilled manpower, are worked by refugees and prisoners of war. Another shortage is horses. They too have been sent to the front. They too must be replaced. There is grain on the farms, but there are bread lines in the cities. Russia's crude transport system has broken down. Civilian ration cards are good for a daily chunk of bread, sometimes a kettle of milk. Meat is often unobtainable. The Tsar's capital, Petrograd, its name changed from the Germanic St. Petersburg, is a city whose 2 million inhabitants are freezing for lack of fuel. Away and out of touch at his army headquarters, the Tsar has told his ministers not to bother him with civilian problems. But the dominant member of the Romanov family is close at hand, his German-born Empress Alexandra, a headstrong, superstitious woman obsessed with the ill health of her son Alexis. The boy suffers from hemophilia. Servants must not let him out of their sight. A fall from his horse, the slightest bruise, may cause bleeding that could be fatal.